Are you searching for the best defensive player props for week 5 of the NFL season? Stick around. We got some defensive tackle props for you on this week's episode of the IDP Plus Defensive Props Podcast. Welcome back to week 5 of the IDP Plus Defensive Props Podcast, where Johnny and I have been giving you several tackle props each week. Solos, assisted lines, total tackle lines, you name it. We do all the tackle props here. So far through, I think we've been betting on 3 weeks so far. We've remained profitable, but we kind of hope to kind of keep those wheels turning and gain a little bit more momentum this week as we go into week 5. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and kick it off, and I'll let Johnny start us off with his first play of week 5. What do you got, man?
So first play, we talked about this a little bit off-screen accident, but sometimes, you don't have to go for those high numbers, those mass volume. And that's what kind of I try to do with this one. Not really kind of my play. Your idea first. You did it a couple weeks ago and you told me about it. The cornerbacks, the slot backs, they kind of don't really get in the mix that much, but don't need a lot to make their mark. So the first person I'm looking at is Jaylon Jones, a cornerback that plays 100% of the snaps for the Indianapolis Colts. That's a great thing. Anytime you're on the field 100% of the snaps through 4 weeks, that's a great look. So opportunity is king there. He's made good on it. He's 4 for 4 so far in the first 4 weeks on getting 1 assisted tackle. As a matter of fact, that's what he did the last 2 games, and that's all he's going to have to do. And, Axton, we've talked about it before. You can this is a guy who's made 6-7 tackles per game. It's not like he's getting 1 tackle and you're hoping it has to be the assist. No, this is a guy who's getting volume tackles, but not many have been assisted tackles. But come on now, if you're playing a game versus Jacksonville's got to grease the squeaky wheel. They've got to fix some things. They've got to find Trevor Lawrence some kind of success. So that means throwing the ball the way I see it. Of course, they have 2 good running backs there that can run it too. Hopefully, they get their running game established. But the way I see it, man, Jacksonville, this is going to be a throwing game for the Jags offense predominantly. I think Jaylon Jones just got to get 1 in the mix with somebody, man, just by default. So again, this is minus 195. This is almost like Travis Kelce getting 50 yards at this point. So you have a lot of good offensive plays, but this should be a shoe-in. As far as Vegas sees it. And, I think it's a great realistic opportunity that one of these 7 or 8 tackles is an assist. So that's all we need at 1 assist. Jaylon Jones, 1 assist, minus 195 versus Jacksonville. Axton, back to you.
That's great. I love those like half tackle lines because how often with a guy that, like you said, is getting 5, 6, 7 tackles week in and week out, regardless of matchup, how often do they get every tackle as a solo tackle? You know what I mean? More often than not, you're at least going to get 1 assist. I mean, of course, there's going to be games where cornerbacks will get all solo tackles, but week in and week out, that's really hard to do. To remain 100% solo tackler. So I really like those half tackle lines, especially on an assisted mark for a cornerback who's going to be around the ball a lot. And you're playing against an offense that's been a lot more successful in the last couple of weeks, where you've seen Trevor Lawrence go up from about 13 or 14 completed passes up towards around 20, 21. More completed passes just means more live balls for Jaylon Jones to be chasing wide receivers and get more tackles. Hopefully, with a safety, just 1 play of these 60 plays, 70 plays in this game is all you're really looking for him to just tackle with a teammate here. So I like that to kind of start us off here. I'm actually going to kind of keep the same vein in the same game. I'm going with Nick Cross, the strong safety for the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm going to hit his solo tackle marker, 4.5. This comes in at minus 135. Nick Cross has just been outstanding this year. I will warn that this is not really a great matchup for strong safeties, but that really hasn't mattered so far this year for this Indianapolis Colts defense. They have no rush game, no rush defense in terms of their defensive line. They're just beat beaten all to hell. Excuse my French there, but it's true. I mean, you're just seeing week in and week out. You're seeing Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed soak up 10 plus tackles every week, like clockwork. And then on top of that, Nick Cross playing around the line of scrimmage is just fed into his production as well, where he's getting 10 tackles week in and week out. And as box safety, predominantly, most of those tackles are actually solos. He's actually crushed this line. I'm pretty sure he's hit 4.5 solos in at the very least 3 out of 4 weeks, and every one of those weeks was, I believe, like 6 tackles minimum. I think I might be thinking he might have hit this in every week so far, and then it was just one where he had like 5. Either way, he's been playing outstanding this year. When you're looking at a guy that's getting 10 tackles a game, or roughly around on average through 4 weeks at least, and predominantly being solo tackles, that I think this 5 tackle marker is great in a matchup against Jacksonville, who's looking more successful. I think that we're going to see Indianapolis stay on the field a little bit more. You're not going to see so many 3 and outs as maybe you might have seen with Jacksonville in the first couple of weeks. So I think that just kind of plays into the production of the Indianapolis defense overall, even though they might be allowing some big plays or whatever. But I think on the stat sheet, you're still going to see some pretty lucrative numbers. So that's kind of my case, is just kind of riding the hot hand of Nick Cross. It's not necessarily in the matchup on this one, but Nick Cross has been outstanding in through 4 weeks. You can't tell me that each one of those matchups has been just a top 5 matchup for the strong safety position. So he seems to be one of these guys that's just kind of emerging as a producer week in and week out. So we're going to ride this hot hand at 4.5 solo tackles, coming in at -135. I will now defer over to Johnny after my lengthy case here on Nick Cross for his second pick of the week.
I like it, man. And you know what? One of the things that you said is there, sustaining drives. And man, for our first 2 picks, Jaylon Jones. Now we go to your boy Cross. 2 out of 2 picks so far coming from Indianapolis. So we better hope that Trevor Lawrence can sustain some drives there. But yeah, really good pick, man. He just been doing it so far, and that's what we look for. Obviously nothing's guaranteed in the betting world, but at the same time, Nick Cross has just done it so far, and keep riding the wave with him. So I love that pick. I'll move on to a different game now, but I'm still going back to my boy, and that is Cody Barton, man. Cody Barton recently, if you didn't know, took the green dot duties from Alex Singleton, who tore his ACL, but still played in a game. So what a beast Singleton is. Hate to see him out, but Cody Barton, that's one good thing about it. It gives him an opportunity to shine. This is somebody who you're not going to, be interested if you're a PFF guy. He's not a household name by any means, but we need him to do what he's done the last 3 weeks, and that is go out and get 3 assisted tackles. I mean, listen, folks, for -155, this is not the sexiest bet. To me, it's pretty short. It's a pretty short bet, though. He's playing Vegas. It's a good matchup. I get it. They have some problems over there. No Devontae Adams, like Zamir White's out. How much can they actually run it? I'm sure they still will. And even if they're up in that game somehow, some way, they'll continue to run it more. But bottom line is just you don't have to, run the ball a lot. Cody Barton, if you make plays in the middle of the field, he's just going to be around the plays. And that's what he did last week. He had 6 assisted tackles for a combined 10. It all lines up here. And there are other nice, I think he's only at 7.5 combined, but to me, I think the lower marker only needs 3 assists. So let's just get the easy one out of the way here. I love this bet. I mean, bottom line is with this guy right here, Cody Barton, weeks 2 and 3, he was playing 50 to 60% of snaps. He had 4 assists in both those week 2 and week 3 matchup. Now he's playing 100%. Last week, first game, 100%. He goes out and doubles his total, gets 6 assists. So I'm pretty comfortable with this one. Like I said, great matchup. History checks out. The snaps are there. So it's a low marker. And thank you to the Vegas for this one. The odds were low. And I understand, like I said, -155, not sexy, but sprinkle it in with something else that you think is good this week. And you're on a good trajectory with this one.
Yeah, I like that logic of kind of throwing it, kind of parlaying it with a little something else to kind of boost your odds a little bit. Maybe get 3, 4 times your cash if you kind of play it right. But
And even if it's a single, it's okay too. But I
yeah,
like
for
this one.
For sure. And Cody Barton slides now into a leading linebacker role that Alex Singleton previously had in Denver. And this is Alex Singleton was one that was regularly getting 10 tackles a game in general. And so you know that this position on this defense is at least lucrative for tackles. And I know that Singleton has just been a tackle monster pretty much the last 3 or 4 years straight. But if you go and you look at the history of Cody Barton, you'll notice a similar trajectory. A guy who's just found himself in very productive roles on defenses that very much are schemed to help the linebackers produce. Seattle, Washington. I mean, in wherever he's been like the guy. And even if he didn't start out as the guy, he kind of found himself as the guy. Like, I mean, and that's just kind of been the story of Alex Singleton. And Cody Barton's one that's had over 130 tackles in a season.
Mm-hmm.
For his assisted tackle line, he's not really much of a solo tackle getter. He's not like he's just out here like your EJ Speeds and JOK's getting 7-8 solo tackles again a game. He might have one game where he kind of gets up a little bit more, but generally he's pretty split. And for his assisted tackle line to be at 2.5 again after he's pretty well crushed this all year, now he's getting more snaps. I love that play. So
Yeah.
I'm really backing that Cody Barton. You just ride the hot hand, man. If you win one week and you got a better matchup and Vegas is going to keep giving you that line, you keep riding it. So,
That's right.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. So that's a great second play.
Thank
My
you.
next play here, I'm going to switch games over to the Cardinals 49ers game, and I'm going with Kyzir White over 8.5 total tackles against the 49ers. Kyzir White's just been an animal this year. He's hit this in 3 out of 4 weeks. The only week he didn't hit it was against the Rams in week 2. That was not a great matchup for linebackers, but he still hit 7 tackles and was still pretty close to this number in what was not a great matchup. But in all of his other matchups, there he's actually had some pretty solid matchups to start the year. So in 3 or 4, he's hit 9 or more tackles. So I really love this against San Fran, who runs the ball 30 or more times a game. You've got Jordan Mason at least running 20, 25 times a game. They establish the run early. Then you get some Deebo Samuel off the edge a little bit too, where Kyzir can probably catch him close to the sidelines on some plays there. So if they're going to run the ball 30 or 40 times a game, I think the linebackers are going to be very productive. And Kyzir White's the leading tackle getter on this defense. I really like this matchup for Kyzir White. Probably a top 5 matchup for San Francisco opposing linebackers playing San Francisco. This came in at minus 105 too, so we're still looking at almost double your money. So it's dang near plus odds. And if you kind of look at historically so far this season, San Fran's opponents, anyways, both Rams linebackers hit this mark in week 3. I think Troy Reader and Christian Roseboom each had 10 tackles that game. Same with Minnesota linebackers in week 2. Ivan Pace hasn't really been a huge tackle getter this year just due to the kind of role that he's playing on this defense, but he still managed to beat this 8.5 combined tackle mark in week 2. And then you look at week 1 and CJ Mosley got it. So if historically, I mean, this game, I guess in week 4, the Pats didn't get it, but their defense is kind of scrambled eggs right now, as I kind of put it here on my notes. Jawan Bentley went down, and they didn't really know what they were going to do at linebacker. And Jelani Tavai, I don't think ended up getting the snaps. I think it was McMillan who got the biggest role there, and he produced. He didn't quite hit this mark, but again, he was kind of stepping into a new role. So I call it a one-off if you X that game out. But only one linebacker hasn't hit this. 5 out of 6 have. So being Kyzir White being the lead tackle getter, I feel confident in him being able to get 9 tackles this week. As a matter of fact, I think he gets 10 or more this week against San Fran. So chalk me up for Kyzir White over 8.5 at minus 105 against San Fran this week.
You know what? I like it a lot. It's not only is it great odds, it minus 105. To me, the greatest thing about it is you don't have to, sway which way the tackles have to come, assisted, solos. No, this is just combined. So really smart move there, Axton. If we follow trends too, how it's been going, looking for Kyzir White. Last game, 9 tackles. Week 3, 11 tackles, 7, and then 11 week 1. Tackle numbers have been great, but it's just the way they've come for him. Like, usually guys I'll search for solo assist. To me, logic goes out the window with Kyzir, and I just got to look at the combined right now because it's early. It's the first 4 weeks, and we've seen the assist to solos fluctuate so much. I mean, week 3, 1 solo and 11. I'm sorry, and 10 assists. That how often do you see that, right? So crazy stat there, and I like the fact that this is combined. I'm not really looking his solos or assists yet because of the fluctuation. So, but nonetheless, 11 tackles is 11 tackles. So it's a great bet, great matchup, love it, and great odds there too. So good pick there, Axton. You threw a big name linebacker out there, so I'm going to throw mine out there. It's almost like a Pokemon battle right now, and I'm going to go T.J. Edwards. And while T.J. Edwards, this is like you've got to trust my gut, and you don't know me. You're sitting watching a computer screen right now. You don't know me, but at the same time, I play a lot of fantasy IDP football, and TJ Edwards, he's just such a top dog. And right now, he's only hit this marker. We're going for over 4.5 solo tackles at minus 155. So to me, it's a low marker. That's why I'm on it. I don't think TJ Edwards is like, oh, this is the greatest matchup in the world. He gets Carolina. I think Carolina can sustain drives. Andy Dalton's been better. This isn't the first week 1 or week 2 Carolina team. This is a team that's grown substantially and able to sustain themselves now. So I don't mind the matchup. And for TJ Edwards, it's not, you look at the track record here, it's shaky. The last 2 games, he has not hit this mark, which is probably why Vegas has it so low. But let's not look at so much this year. It's not like snap counts or, he's been hurt or somebody's been taking his job. Nothing like that. It's just the product of perhaps game flow the last 2 weeks. But let's look back a little bit further. If you remember, if you've played IDP fantasy football, you know how much a top dog TJ Edwards is. This is a guy who the last 2 years had 100, almost 100 solo tackles both years. That's just solo tackles, So for me, TJ Edwards is a top dog, like I'd mentioned, and just this is such a low marker. 4.5 solos. He just needs 5. So I think this is a pretty generous give here, although the odds are not, greatly juiced at minus 155. But I just think this is such a low marker. TJ Edwards, don't look in the rearview mirror. Look forward here. There's going to be brighter days ahead for TJ Edwards in fantasy and the NFL and the betting community too. So I think, again, just you got to trust me on this one. Paper won't back it. The last 2 weeks won't back it, but let's be logical here and not, put all of our eggs in the yesterday's basket. So TJ Edwards is my third pick here, Axton. Back over to you.
Give yourself a little credit there because the last couple of weeks, TJ Edwards was going up against probably bottom 10 matchups for linebackers. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it convincing considering we're trying to talk TJ Edwards up as one of the best linebackers in the league. But it's another piece to consider. When you have an elite linebacker, typically you want to see them perform no matter what the matchup, right? But at the very least, you want to see them perform in good matchups. And that's what we're seeing with TJ Edwards. And last year, I believe we were talking a little bit before the show, and you said he only didn't hit this marker in like 4 games last year. So if you want to talk about history, you want to talk about consistency, let's kind of break it down a little bit more than what we're talking about with just this season. And when you're talking about going up against the Carolina Panthers, who now have Andy Dalton at quarterback, and have been a lot more successful overall. They've been able to push the ball down the field, score touchdowns. That's a thing now. Carolina can actually score touchdowns. Right. And then Chuba Hubbard, as a result, is also is touching the ball on the ground 20 or more times a game. That's just plays more into the production of the opposing linebackers. They're the main run stuffers. They're the primary rush defense, outside of the defensive line. And right now, the defensive line hasn't has been kind of up and down for the Chicago defense. So while they're still trying to kind of figure this thing out, but TJ Edwards has been a consistent guy there. So at minus 155 for him to get 4.5 solos and just kind of keep doing what historically he just naturally does, regardless of matchup. I love this, that especially considering that he's in a favorable matchup. So before I get into my next one, I'll just kind of remind everybody that, you know, we're not, these aren't even really suggestions. That these are just more, we've done some research. We've looked at the lines. These are considerations that we've made for putting our own money down on lines that we really liked. And we've done some research and just, we're kind of backing these selections. So play this how you feel responsible within your own means. You know, we want to bet responsibly. We don't want to overdo things. If it might even be best to just kind of take 2 or 3 of these and just kind of parlay them for a little bit of fun. I feel like that would be, especially considering our track record the last few weeks, I feel like you would have pretty good odds pairing just a couple of these that you feel really good about for maybe 2 or 3 times your cash, or 3 of them for maybe 4 or 5 or 6 times your cash, depending on the 3 that you pair together. So again, we're just doing the research here, trying to give you guys good plays. If you're interested in tackle props, hopefully you are if you're watching the show. But you know, we're just trying to do the legwork and give you guys the results of what we find. So take everything with a little grain of salt. This is all meant to be fun. We are likely putting our own money on this stuff. So this is just kind of the information that we found while we're looking through making our own bets. So just kind of keep that in mind. But we'll go ahead and move on to our next pick, our third pick here. I've got Rasul Douglas over 3.5 solo tackles. This week they go up against the Houston Texans. Houston Texans are one of the most successful passing offenses in the league, which is great for opposing cornerbacks, excuse me. CJ Stroud is completing over 20, 25 or more passes a game. You want pass completions when you're talking about betting on tackles for cornerbacks. You want them playing in a matchup that's going to be a shootout, a game that's going to have a lot of passes, especially a quarterback that's going to be completing a lot. And the fact that I don't think CJ Stroud has had a game where he's completed less than 20 passes so far, I like the odds. That just means, let's just assume 2 cornerbacks, 3 cornerbacks, that's 6, 7 to 10 passes coming Rasul Douglas's way, roughly. And predominantly cornerbacks are going to be getting solo tackles. So I think, that the odds are kind of great here for Rasul Douglas to be in and around. I don't know exactly if he'd be guarding Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs, but both of them are going to get a fairly large target share if you consider what they do week in and week out, probably seeing 8 to 10 targets a game on average. And now Tank Dell's not in there, so you're probably seeing a little bit more. I like this matchup for probably both cornerbacks. I didn't really take a look at the odds too deep for the other cornerback. I just know Rasul Douglas has been a week in week out producer, especially even in IDP for cornerback streaming. So he's kind of a guy that I've kind of followed as I've played fantasy football with IDP. So the fact that we're coming in at over 3.5 solo tackles at plus 105, we're still getting plus money, over double your money here against the Houston Texans. I love this for Rasul Douglas in week 5.
Yeah, I like it too, man. Great cornerback in the league, not only, as far as tackling, but what he does in coverage as well. Also, man, I mean, this is going to be one heck of a shootout, like you had mentioned. We get the revenge game. Stephon Diggs here, comes back. So maybe this is a big game for Diggs, and hopefully Rasul Douglas is going to be the one, wrapping him up. So that would be, icing on the cake. Great pick here. Really like it. And I'm going to move on to my start of my juice picks at first one at plus 105. And that is Micah McFadden over 4.5 solo tackles versus Seattle. Man, I love Micah McFadden. I mean, he's a great tackler. He's a great IDP player. And, that's what we're here for, is the tackles. So, to me, I mean, Bobby O, I don't know what's in his bag, this year. He's been so, inconsistent as far as tackles and does have 1.5 sack, but Bobby O's been kind of falling apart in my eyes. And Micah McFadden has just even looked better than him as far as, the box score this year. So Micah McFadden, really impressive. He's been getting sacks, solo tackles, assisted tackles. I mean, the fact that he only needs 5 solos, this week. He's done it the last 3 weeks. He's had 18 solos the last 3 weeks. Last week being 5, the week before that 5, and then week 3 it was 8. I'm sorry, week 2 it was 8. But yeah, Micah McFadden is a dog. He's an absolute short tackler, and not the best in coverage. Has some flaws to his game, but getting tackles is not one of them. So to me, I mean, we're getting plus odds here. I know his over under combined is at 7.5, and that's minus odds, and that's a good bet too. But for me, I mean, if we're getting the juice here for just 5 solo tackles. He's done it in the last 3 games. I think there's room. I know for a fact he's not playing 100% of snaps. I believe it's like 70%, something like that, maybe a little bit north of 70. So there is room there to get even more snaps if that's if they just decide to increase his role. And I sure as heck hope that's the case. I think they should, and maybe decrease Okereke's because he's been looking rough. But yeah, again, you got 2 good markers here. I'm rolling with the 4.5 over 4.5 solos for plus 105. But also, like I said, I mean, his combined is 7.5. I know it's minus odds. It might be like minus 105, 110, something like that. But these are both good looks. And to me, I think he's going to have a big game versus Seattle. Last week, Seattle, when I looked at Jack Campbell, I think he had, 6 or 8. I forget exactly how many solo tackles. I believe it was 8. And then the week and Alex Anzalone had 5 in that game too, 5 solo tackles we're talking. So both of these guys hit it. So I guess, looking in the crystal ball for this week, Micah McFadden, I think there's plenty of tackles to go around for him and Bobby O too. So that's my 4th pick, Axton, and I'll turn it over back to you.
Yeah. Micah McFadden, surprisingly being correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's past Okereke in tackles this year. Okereke, like you said, just hasn't really done that great in terms of just stat sheet production. But Micah McFadden, the fact that you said last week, Seattle got Kenneth Walker back, their primary rusher. They haven't really needed him in week 2 and 3 while he sat out because Geno Smith has been completing over 70% of his passes this year. So the fact that they haven't really needed to lean on the rush game, although Charbonnet did fill in fine for your fantasy teams. I'm pretty sure he scored in both weeks. He kind of did what you would hope he would have done for a fill-in running back. But I don't believe that they were overusing him in the way that maybe they would have had they had Kenneth Walker. Now that they have Kenneth Walker back, you've seen the first game back, you saw, like you said, both linebackers for the opposing defense reach its mark. So I expect more of the same coming this week as they get Kenneth Walker back. He's more healthy. They more lean on the run game, establish that early, and then go back to their passing game to kind of either go ahead or stay in this game this week. So and then it's a porous New York secondary. So I imagine that they will probably be on defense often. Seattle's able to sustain drives. There's going to be long, drawn out drives in this game. And so I think Micah McFadden, the fact that he's hit this in every game he's played this year, that's an outstanding play. Another one of those that you pair with just one of these plus odd plays that we have, and you're probably looking at over 3 times your money in just a 2-leg parlay. So I love that. I love these minus 150s for just, I've coined them myself as kind of an anchor. If you've been watching the show, you probably heard me say that. Just something that you feel really good about, something that you don't really have to sweat in your parlay. So I kind of do that with my touchdown parlays. I'll usually have 1 or 2 anchor plays that I feel really good about, and then I'll kind of stretch the odds on the last one to kind of get the payout I'm looking for. So I like I say, I'm backing that one. But before we get into our last picks here, Johnny, why don't you go ahead and give the folks a word from our sponsor?
That's right. So IDP Plus, right now we are having a subscription promo code. We will give you a subscription with the promo code. So right now, get your 20% off site-wide subscription membership to idpplus.com. Go to the website idpplus.com, which is our website, our company's website, but then put a / and type in membership and hit go. So start your season off right with an IDP Plus subscription. This link that I mentioned will take you right to it. It's also in the the link description below. So get 20% off any subscription for a limited time with promo code props, and get access to our tools, data, IDP articles, and don't miss out on our subscriber Discord. So got a lot going on here at idpplus.com. If you are not subscribed already, go ahead once again to idpplus.com/membership and use the promo code props.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead and check it out. They revamped the website. Everything looks different. Everything looks better. We've got more things coming down the pipe. If you haven't noticed on the website, there's a prop tool that we're working to get onto our website. Hopefully we'll have that incorporated by the end of the season. We're kind of excited to kind of get to play with that. Along with all of our other tools and articles. We've got a lot of great minds working for IDP Plus. So go ahead and follow all of our YouTube channels. We've got a shorts YouTube, we've got the bets and then primary. Follow everybody on Twitter and everything. It's really worth your while. If nothing else, at least give it a try for a month and see how you like it. So you got a promo code, take a little money off. So we'll jump into our last picks here for the day, for the week. Let's see. I'll go ahead and start it off since Johnny's got the big play of the week in terms of just sheer odds and payout. So Eric Kendricks will be my fourth play this week, and I'm actually looking at his assisted tackle line at 4.5 tackles. This comes in at plus 115, and he goes up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're talking about primo matchup for opposing linebackers, an offense that runs the ball well over 30 times a game. You're seeing Najee Harris regularly touch or get over 20 yards, or not 20 yards, 20 touches a game. You're also seeing Justin Fields get more incorporated and comfortable in the pass in the rush game as well, and using his legs. And so Eric Kendricks is one of those guys that historically for a long career has just consistently been a tackle getter. One of those guys that week in and week out, doesn't matter matchup, he could flirt with 10 tackles any given week. And the fact that he's in probably, if not the best, one of the top 3 to 5 matchups for opposing linebackers. He's hit this himself in the last 3 games. He's Dallas's leading tackler. They're hampered on the defensive line. So there's almost no defense on the defensive line. Like every rush is going to go straight through this line because they lost Micah Parsons last week, and DeMarcus Lawrence, I think, is probably the only guy on this defensive line, which, he's no slouch. He's, you've got to respect him. But when you're talking about one guy, it's pretty easy to avoid him. So I think this just kind of plays into Eric Kendricks' favor, and I think there's just going to be great funneling for a successful rushing offense to get the running back into the second layer of this defense. And I think Najee Harris falls into Eric Kendricks' lap 10 or more times this week. And I got to imagine right in the middle of the field that at least 5 of those are going to be assisted tackles with a teammate, considering especially the fact that Eric Kendricks has been predominantly an assisted tackle getter. At least so far this season, I've seen maybe his best solo tackle game was like 5. He might have had 1 spike week, but other than that, he's really just been like 7 7 assisted tackles, like 4 to 5 solo tackles. So we're gonna ride the hot hand, a guy that's just been notorious for going and getting tackles and in a favorable matchup. I really love the fact that he's been able to hit this in the last 3 weeks, especially with worse matchups. So I'm riding Eric Kendricks at plus 115 against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. So what do you say, Johnny, before we get into your last one?
What a great pick there. I overlooked those odds. I didn't realize it was positive. So plus 115, man. I mean, that's the bet of the week. I think great pick there. It's going to make it tough to top that, but that's okay. Right now I'm just going to throw out what worked last week. This guy, the odds aren't that great. Last week it was plus 140. This week it is plus 130, but still, Vonn Bell. Let's go look at his assisted tackles. He needs over 2.5 this week. Matchup versus Baltimore. hey, last week it was a revenge game versus Carolina. Now it's no revenge game, but I think he actually gets a better matchup versus Baltimore this week. So Vonn Bell, I mean, he just made good on this measure all 4 games so far. Seems to be just in the mix. I mean, I was watching Red Zone. I was keeping up with the box score. He got the third assist last week, and then went and got an interception. And I was glad that he got the assist that he needed, because I would have been sweating if he would have got that pick before he got the final tackle. But he made good on it pretty early. So I think this is a good bet for plus odds here. Probably if it wasn't plus odds, I wouldn't be putting it as the pick of the week for me. But again, somebody who's just hit it 4 out of 4 weeks, he's playing 100% of snaps. I mean, this is an in division game. I think that he's not somebody who plays deep and just makes tackles that are on deep balls or plays that happen way down the field. Like, this is a guy who's in the mix in the run game. You look at what Derrick Henry is able to do. You look, I mean, even if it's not Derrick Henry, the way that Lamar runs the ball, the way they check down to Justice Hill. You got to learn up the fact of and tackles nowadays. Like, it's crazy. A player can go and run out of bounds. The closest player gets a tackle as far as sacks. Like, if you run out, whole crazy stuff, like how stats are accrued. But to me, yeah, just going back to the track record, he's hit it every week. Hey, Vonn, you got some swag. I'll pick you again this week, even though it's 10 points less juice. So no problem. So once again, Vonn Bell, he's going to get over 2.5 assists for plus 130 this week versus Baltimore. So that's my final juice pick. And I don't know if it went up yours, Axton, but I mean, those together are great, likely to happen, and great odds. So great final picks there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was a great one to wrap it up. I mean, you smashed it last week at plus 140. They're going to give it to you again this week in what I would say is probably a better matchup. Vonn Bell playing against the Ravens this week, who, if you follow PFF's John Macri, he puts out a little sheet every week where he lists which teams are allowing the most tackles to what positions, and even puts the efficiencies on there, tackle efficiencies and all that jazz. Baltimore Ravens have been a top 5 matchup in terms of just allowing tackles to opposing safeties. Vonn Bell is going to be heavily involved in this game. Being one of those box safeties that's getting tackles week in and week out. He's hit this every week so far this year. Measly 3 assisted tackles for a box safety. Considering you're playing a rush-heavy quarterback who's going to run the ball maybe 10 or more times this game, and then you've got Derrick Henry who might see the ball on the ground 20 or more times a game. Vonn Bell's lining up on the line of scrimmage a majority of snaps. Around the line of scrimmage, a lot of running means the ball is going to be around the line of scrimmage. That's a lot of opportunity for tackles to get in there. And if you're around the line of scrimmage, especially considering you don't have much of a defensive line, so you're not going to be stopping the run on that aspect, he's going to have to get in there and get in some groups of tackles and make some plays, much like he has every week as he's hit this. So I really like Vonn Bell to hit this over 2.5 marker. And I love the fact that they still gave you plus juice at plus 130 this week. So that I think is a great one to follow up there at Kendricks, my Eric Kendricks play. I don't think you gave yourself enough credit. So we'll ride the hot hand, man. If it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if the matchups are just as good and it worked last week, ride it. Consistency plays. History has a way of repeating itself. So again, I'll just remind everybody, we're going to wrap this thing up. I know we ran a little longer this week, but if you've watched till the end, thank you very much. Again, these are just we've done all the legwork and the research. These are things in place that we've been looking at ourselves. We might even place some money on it. So we're more or less just doing the legwork for you guys, and you guys kind of pick and choose however you like to play with what we've got here. So check out who we've got again in the description if you want just a quick summary. So again. Follow myself on Twitter at AxemanIDP. Follow Johnny at Johnny freaking F1. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know if you pieced any of these together. Let us know if you guys are following any of these or tailing any. We wanna know your successes and whatnot, and see where we can improve and try to help everybody come out with a little extra cash in their pocket this week. Let's take those significant others out to a nice dinner or something this week. So thanks again, everybody, for coming back again and watching our picks and rocking with us for another week of your defensive player prop bets. So we'll see you back here again in week 6. I think last week we remained just over even. Had you placed about $5 on us, we probably would have just profited a few bucks, but we're still remaining profitable and we've got better weeks in us. So stick around. We'll be back for more and better things. So we'll see you guys next week for week 6. Good luck, bet responsible, and let's try to be lucky this week.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.